Good morning, good day, hello. This is Josh. I have a weird lighting situation going on here, but I'm going to just lean into it. This is cinematic, appropriate for our discussion today, because I have seen The Brutalist, the A24 American immigrant epic, the 3.5 hour epic, directed by Brady Corbet and starring Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones and Guy Pearce. And this movie is long with trailers. It's a 4-hour theater experience, so I had to really budget my time and rearrange things to have that much time in one day that I was willing to basically run out from work when I got off work at 5 and go see this movie and still get to bed late for me, for an old guy. And but I did, and I'm glad that I did. I do have trademark complicated Josh thoughts about The Brutalist, and to really get into them, I'm going to have to get spoilery. Which I may do in a separate video, or maybe just over on the podcast feed, or maybe at the end of this review, I'll just, because I don't know that I can talk for hours about this movie, but I do have some thoughts. I'll just do a quick no spoiler review, and that is that this is a movie that screams bold, cinematic, important awards, and to a point that almost put me off. I thought the trailer was striking, and everything I was hearing about it was largely positive, not just positive, but like effusive. And but there was, even in that trailer, there was a little twinge of like a little bit of pretense of like, this is important, this is stark, this is very designed. And I felt like that watching the movie. For maybe the first 30 minutes, I felt like the direction, the filmmaking, the presentation, the score was all extremely like, it's almost like the filmmaking itself is a performance. It's very showy. It's very much like, this is happening. Like, this is, but I got absorbed in it very quickly, that because of the writing and the cinematography and the acting, everything comes together. It's very, the thing this movie is best at is a sweeping sense of time and place and context and history. It's a fictional story, but it's very specific to moments in America's history, to very real dynamics and feelings. And essentially, this movie, forgive me, it's freezing here in New York, and I have a little bit of a throat issue today. But this movie is basically about how, certain types of immigrants came to this country and built it on top of the people who already lived here. They had success. They made the rules and built the society, and then treated subsequent waves of immigrants like garbage. And the American dream, there's been plenty said artistically about how the American dream is maybe not all it's cracked up to be. And this is the movie that takes that message and essentially like bludgeons you with it. But it has so much to say, and I was worried for a while that maybe it didn't have anything to say beyond kind of obvious, well-tread observations about that reality. To the point where it was a kind of a roller coaster. Like I would, the first half of the movie is kind of like a coming to America. So I'll get a little more specific, right? Adrian Brody plays an architect, a displaced architect from Budapest, who's a Jew, and he has been displaced. He's a Holocaust survivor, separated from his wife, and he finally makes his way to America. And it's about the people that are kind to him, while it's convenient and easy for them and makes them heroic, but then at a certain degree, their kindness is sapped and they stop being kind to him. And it's about the opportunities he gets and the things he has to do to survive. And then halfway through the movie, he is kind of a self-made person, but really still at the behest of a patron, in this case, a rich man named Harrison Van Buren, played by Guy Pearce. And it becomes really apparent that he's still not considered he's a brilliant architect who has found work and accolades in America, and yet he's still regarded as kind of a leech and an unwelcome person whenever he doesn't play along the way he's expected to. Then Felicity Jones, playing his wife, Elizabeth, she finally makes it to America, and the second half of the movie is about them kind of as Americans trying to make that work. And what was kind of like a, kind of a familiar message in the first half of the movie becomes, I don't want to say heavy-handed because that sounds dismissive and like I'm saying it's bad. It just becomes so, this movie goes like there's a certain point late in the movie when they're in a car and they're basically shouting at each other the message of the movie, which is, they don't like us, they don't want us here, this place sucks. And I was like, okay, that's what you could just have your characters shout the theme of the movie, but that's not the ending. It's gonna get worse, and then it's gonna and this is where my complicated feelings take over. I can't talk about the ending without spoiling it, and you should see this movie because it's beautiful and it's a movie of the moment. Interesting to see what will happen with awards, right? This is a big winner at the Golden Globes, but then it's not at the kind of the SAG Awards and some of the I have friends who follow the awards much more closely and adeptly than I did, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with this movie, which, let's be honest, it's begging for awards. That's the one thing about this movie that put me off a little bit, is that it's basically just like it's asking you as the audience to give it an award. Like it just really wants awards. But so yeah, all I'll say is it was a roller coaster for me with this movie, and then the ending, which I don't want to talk about and spoil, it's one of those endings that if I was like 20 years old, I'd be like, well, why did they end with that? Like that's out of left field. And then I was, and even now I'm dense, I'm slow. I had to drive home, and on the drive home I was like, oh, that's why it ends that way. That's what the ending means. It clicked with me, like 45 minutes after seeing the movie, and I was like, well, that's kind of brilliant. So I want to talk about that somewhere else. Don't just listen to me say it though, because first of all, I'm slow and dense and I could be really wrong, and you should see it yourself. So see it yourself, and then I'll meet you back at some other piece of media where we can talk about what went on and how I came to think that the ending of this movie is brilliant. So that's my scattered, complicated Josh review of The Brutalist. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed my weird, maybe inappropriate Adrian Brody joke in the thumbnail for this video. He's a weird guy. He has a history of doing cringy things that he and only he seems to think are a good idea on live television. But you can look that up for yourself. You can support me by watching these videos, liking, sharing these videos. You can subscribe to the channel. You can become a member on the channel. And you can also support me over on patreon.com/JoshWay, where I post these videos early, and I interact with patrons, and I have podcast episodes and all sorts of other stuff that you can enjoy. I also do other stuff. I have lots of fun stuff coming in 2025, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for your time. I will see you at the movies. Nobody ever said that, right? I can use that, right? Nobody else owns that catchphrase. All right, Josh out. Bye.